How's it going, guys? As promised, I'm going to be bringing you a Holy Priest guide. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. I just want to say that Holy Priests are actually, for the first time in a while, the best healer in the game. I think that the last time this happened, it may have been Mop, I believe, where Holy Priests were super broken with just like Palm Serenity, if you guys remember that or if you didn't play. But yeah, I wanted to give you a breakdown of the order in which things we're going to be talking about, because this is going to be kind of a long guide. So, you know, if you already kind of know the basics and you want to like fast forward to a certain spot and, you know, you want to just like know how to do damage or mana efficiency, you can kind of maybe like base where it would be in the guide by what I'm talking about. Race for Holy Priest. So I originally thought that like cross-faction queuing and stuff was going to come out, that I would probably just immediately play Alliance, but after playing Undead and playing Priest more, I would say that Undead feels really powerful because there's so many other Priests playing the game that getting full feared feels really, really, really bad. So since Holy Priests are so popular, I would say that Will the Forsaken probably has like, you know, a ton of value. If I were to play Alliance, which I have, in the tournament a little bit, it would be between Human and Night Elf. Human being that you essentially can get out of stuns every minute and a half as opposed to every 2 minutes, because you could rotate your human racial with your PvP trinket, and it basically puts your trinket at a 1.5 minute cooldown, allowing you to get out stuns easier. Or you could play for Shadow Meld to kind of go for like Shadow Meld Drink, Shadow Meld, avoid CC, and trying to be like really evasive. There's some really nice things you could do with Shadow Meld. You could like really easily Shadow Meld, you know, crowd control, really easily Shadow Meld Storm Bolts. And also Shadow Meld Drinks are definitely not bad. So I would say Undead's the best. And if I had to choose between Human and Night Elf, I would say I would probably go Night Elf. I think Night Elf is probably a little bit better. It doesn't feel like that 30 seconds is make or break for me, at least. I think I played more Night Elf than Human in the tournament so far. So Covenants, there's only 2 Covenants I've seen. I think the third one's a little bit of a meme, but you're more than welcome to try it. It's between Night Fae and Venthyr for me personally, and then some people do like to play the boon damage, which is Kyrian. Night Fae for me is the more popular decision right now, and the reason why I say that is because I think that it's just a little bit more consistent. I would say in basically RMP and maybe other couple like very specific setup comps, I think it's mainly RMP. Venthyr is really important because Mind Games is just insane. Like, it just helps you secure those kills. It's such a big threat. And even in setup comps, like I play Windwalker Mage, which is pure setup, I still like Night Fae more because I kind of like that damage reduction from the Fae Guardian ability, and I kind of like the mana restored from the Fae Guardian ability, and also the cooldown recovery from the Fae Guardian ability is like absolutely insane. So when you press Fae Guardians on someone, it gives you 150%. You can see the mask right here from Double Legendary, 50%, and then the ability right here is 100%. Gives you 150% CDR on, you know, their most powerful ability. So like when you use this with a mage, when I play Windwalker Mage, I like throw it on my mage as soon as he uses Combustion, and it gives him 150% faster reset on that Combustion, and that feels really, really important. So I've been heavily leaning towards Night Fae, just because I kind of feel like the Double Legendary for Venthyr isn't that good either. But I would say RMP still plays Venthyr. But for almost every other comp, I would say give Night Fae a try. I really do miss Mind Games a lot. I think Mind Games is super good as a threat. I think it's super good to bait kicks. And if you're just like, you know what, I like Mind Games way too much, I don't want to give it up, I don't think it's make or break. You know what I mean? I'm not going to sit here and tell you absolutely cannot play Venthyr and you cannot play Kyrian. But yeah, Kyrian just does a ton of damage. I heard it was really popular in 2s. Yeah, it just does a ton of damage. I think it's a little bit more inconsistent, and it's like more damage than Mind Games, but it's over like a longer period of time, when Mind Games is like more lethal quickly, I guess. So this is a 2-minute game where Kyrian Priest does, you know, Ascended Blast. It hits me for 18,000. That's pretty scary. But it does have a little bit of a long cast time. I don't know if you can avoid, like, the AoE might actually be a bad thing in some situations where you could break crowd control and stuff. But, yeah. So, does a lot of damage. It's over the course of, you know, a certain durations. Not, in my opinion, not as lethal as Mind Games, but definitely could do a lot of damage. So, just so you get an idea of how much that actually hits for. In terms of Spec and Honor talents, there's not really too much you change on Priest. This is one of the ones you do change. If you need regeneration and you feel like it's going to be a long game, you play Enlightenment. If you feel like you need healing, you play Renew Faith, okay? At the end of a game, if you feel like you lost because you played Renewed Faith and you lost some mana, just Spec Enlightenment. It's really simple. You could try and judge based off that. In the second row, I normally 100% of the time play Feather. I do think Angel's Mercy is probably not bad if you're getting trained by a melee cleave. I personally like Feathers. I like having the ability to kind of get away. So I would... That's my choice, but I would say if you're having trouble living against melee cleaves, you can definitely try playing Angel's Mercy. Always play Guardian Angel. This is what gives you the 1 minute cooldown Guardian Angel, and make sure you don't make the mistake thinking that like Guardian Angel proccing is a good thing. When you use Guardian Angel, you're using it literally for a healing increase, 86% healing increase, and you want to heal into it. Yeah, you don't want it to proc, because that 3 minute cooldown is not good. You want to keep that at a 1 minute cooldown if possible, and worst case scenario, goes to 3 minute cooldown, but it saves a life. A lot of players like to play Psychic Voice here. It really depends on the comp. If you don't have like a lot of like in caps or something, or you feel like you have enough stuns, you can play Short Fear. I would say in most situations, every RMP priest plays this and kind of does like the CC chain on the healer with a in cap chastise into a full fear. It allows for like more frequent goes. If your comp doesn't have a lot of stuns, which unfortunately a lot of the comps that I play don't have a lot of stuns, I don't have a rogue on my team, I generally like to play the chastise stun. But yeah, it really depends on the comp. I never really play Shining Force. Maybe you could think about it on like a map with like Z-axis or something where you want to like knock melee off you. That was kind of like a strategy back in the day. But you don't really see this talent get much play anymore. Always play Surgelite. Always play Benediction. Always play Apotheosis. I will say this is for Arena, by the way. I have no idea about RBGs. I have no idea about PvE. This is an Arena guide. But yeah, these three are always keeps. Like, you want Renew Up all the time. So if Paramending puts your Renew Up, that's incredible. If you're proccing instant flash heals, that's incredible. And Apotheosis is just such an incredible cooldown. I'll talk about it later in the guide if you're not 100% sure on how it works. Now, in terms of honor talents, I want to tell you that you should always play these two honor talents right here. Miracle Worker, Greater Fade. These two are 100% picks. I'll tell you a very small scenario where I decide to spec out a Miracle Worker, but I'm not going to tell you that you guys have to. So Holy Ward, I like to play versus teams that don't really have like a great way to remove it. Super good into teams that don't have a purge at all. Generally speaking, you play Holy Ward into like RMP, even though there's 2 Dispels. You just try and like stay out of line of sight and be very evasive of the mage and the priest to try and have that available, so the rogue can't just like come over and stun you and then do their go immediately, or the priest can't just like walk into you and chastise you and do the go immediately. They have to kind of like work to get the Holy Ward off. You always want to like kind of try and rebuff yourself when people are trying to get your Holy Ward off. Some of the longer buffs, I like to levitate myself. I'm not taking damage, throw palm on myself, 30 seconds, 10 minutes, rebuff for it. You can even shield yourself if you want, but you definitely want to try and protect your Holy Ward so they can't get it off immediately. But I also really like Holy Ward into Hunter teams, because at the start of every game versus Hunter teams, what they want to do is they want to intimidate you into a trap. So starting with that Holy Ward could definitely slow down how fast they're able to get out that crowd control. So yeah, I generally like to play Holy Ward into Hunter teams as well. Mage teams, it's pretty good. Hunter teams, it's pretty good. But yeah, so for example, like when we were fighting against Destro Mage in the tournament, I was actually playing Ray of Hope instead of Holy Ward because I wasn't really getting crowd control that often, and the burst potential was so high that Ray of Hope pausing the damage and doing the healing felt really good. I never really play Sanctified Ground. It seems kind of awkward. Feels like there's just better talents to pick. Cardinal Mending is something that's really, really good, in my opinion at least. It is just, if you're fighting against like heavy cleave damage, Cardinal Mending is very powerful, man. There's so many games where my Prayer Mending is like my top heal or top 2 heals, and I think Cardinal Mending definitely has something to do with that. So like, for example, if I played against like Shadow Priest Warlock, or you know, the other day I'm fighting Affliction Warlock, Feral Druid trying to rot my whole team, I definitely like to play Cardinal Mending. Thought Steal, I don't really get a chance to play much these days. So I don't really have too many thoughts on this talent right here. It feels like Dis got to play Thought Steal a little bit easier, but it feels like kind of hard for the Holy Priest to play. People generally like to play it into mages, so just keep that in mind. Like if there's a comp that you want to play Thought Steal into, it probably would be a mage, so you could steal Polymorph and kind of like get some extra aggression on them. But then you got to give up either Holy Ward, which is great into mage, especially Mage Rogue, But it is a possibility. And then, you know, maybe versus like Mage Rogue, if you wanted to give up Holy Ward, you could play Thought Steal and try and win that way. And then I never play Deliver from Evil. I never play Spirit of the Redeemer. I never play Improved Mass Dispel. They just don't really seem worth it as talents, at least in Arena. And then the last one's Divine Ascension. Divine Ascension is really, really powerful against melee cleaves, especially ones that are trying to kill you. You could just fly up really high in the air, and you could just get free healing out. You know what I mean? It kind of gets you out of harm's way. It allows you to cast a couple free heals, which could help reset your Serenity. And it's super nice. You can fly out of Warrior Spear. Just to note, like, it won't suck you back down. You can get gripped on it, which is a little bit awkward, and I think Vortex will suck you back down, even though Spear doesn't, so a little bit of a weird interaction there. But yeah, Divine Ascension is just a very powerful ability and something that you definitely want to use if you're struggling into surviving on melee cleaves. I wanted to talk about Ray of Hope. So Ray of Hope is a little bit of, like, I just want to label it as like as an awkward talent if you don't really understand how it works. The best way for me to have always explained how a Ray of Hope works is that it's a tug of war on damage. All damage is paused, all healing is paused. And you know whether the ray is negative or not, or positive, based on the color. There's purple and there's yellow. So if the Ray of Hope is purple, it means you need to do more healing. If the Ray of Hope is yellow, it means the Ray of Hope is going to be what's called positive, and it's going to heal the person. So right now you see it's positive, and it would be a big heal after this. But what's nice about Ray of Hope is pausing the damage actually gives you time to kind of like respond to it if it's like very one-shotty damage. But it's also literally a 50% healing increase. So when you're healing into that Ray, you're doing 50% more healing. So it's actually a pretty strong cooldown in general. I like to use Ray of Hope versus like Assassination Rogues, because Assassination Rogues have like a really, really big Mortal Strike, and it's like 40% or something. So like instantly Ray of Hoping like a Vendetta and like using a Serenity and a Flash Heal into it generally is enough to like out heal that pressure. I like to use Ray of Hope into melee cleaves that don't attack me, because Ray of Hope, once again, you know, could kind of pause that damage for a second, allow you to get some healing out at like a more effective rate. Yeah, it allows you to top easier, but you just gotta keep in mind that, you know, it's like it's a little bit of like a knowledge-based matchup. Sometimes when I feel like I'm going to die to melee, I'll play Divine Ascension like versus like Ret Warrior. But sometimes, like if I'm playing against like a Turbo, for example, I feel like they don't have like a good opportunity to kill me. I would play Ray of Hope. Generally speaking, if you can't free cast into Ray of Hope, you need to make sure you have like a Serenity charge available for it, or else it's not going to do very much healing. Like you do need to do a good amount of healing into it, because a lot of damage could happen in 6 seconds. So just make sure that you don't press Ray of Hope if you're not able to actually get healing out. So the add-ons I use, Ability Team Tracker. This one's really nice. This one shows all of the abilities on my party frames, if you guys ever wondered how I saw those. Big debuffs kind of like shows crowd control on player frames, interrupts on player frames. Details is the damage meter I use. It's very detailed. No pun intended. Fly plate buffs is how I see like big enemy cooldowns over my enemy's nameplates, or like crowd control on them, for example. So like, I was gonna say, normally it would show dots, but I must have it turned off. But like, I could see the fear over their nameplates. That's fly plate buffs. You would also be able to see like polymorphs and stuff like that, and you can customize it. Omnibar, it shows my interrupts and CC in the middle of my screen. It's kind of disgusting how many I have. Imagine playing without add-ons and not being able to track that many abilities. Yeah, it gets difficult. S Arena is my arena frames. A lot of people ask me about these. You know, it's just it allows me to move them, you know, size them, do whatever I want with them. Tell me when is something I can't really help you guys set up, but it shows my Dispel cooldown of my enemies. Maybe there's a better add-on for that, because yeah. Trophy GC, this is for your guys' viewing experience. Shows you what globals I use. Weak Rs. Now weak Rs are the most overpowered add-on in the game. Weak Rs can tell you anything that you want. So a lot of my weak Rs Mez makes for me. He actually has what we call a weak R package. You can literally go to his stream and it will show you all of this. It gives you an alert when like big CDs are used. And it puts up text in the middle of your screen. I've moved mine and resized mine, but it basically gives you a much better understanding. Like if you're trying to get like used to Shadowlands PvP, I never used anything like this until Shadowlands, because the amount of time that you have to react to these cooldowns is so minimal that if you don't know they happen the second they happen, you can literally just lose immediately. So would definitely recommend going over to Mez's stream, and I think if you type like exclamation WA, it'll give you his weak aura package. Some of the weak auras I use on my priest, he like just made for me like real quick, so like I don't have like I can't link the code because it's too long, and I don't have like a link from WAG.io or whatever. But I do use a Holy Ward weak aura to show me like when my Holy Ward is up. So if it, you know, goes away, I can immediately fade or something and try and avoid CC. You might be able to just find that on Google if you just type like Holy Ward weak aura, you know, Shadowlands, things like that. But yeah, add-ons obviously very important for healers. Double legendary is, for my opinion, pretty simple. You have Unity, which is your Covenant legendary. Some people didn't realize that, you know, you had to use your Covenant legendary. And then as a Holy Priest, you have Harmonious Apparatus. In my opinion, there's only 2 legendaries you use. Harmonious Apparatus, which is insanely good for resetting your Serenities, resetting your Chastises, resetting your Sanctifies, or you use the Benedictus Res legendary. The only time I ever use Benedictus right now is versus RMP. That's just my personal opinion, that I don't need the constant reset on my Serenities versus RMP because they're not doing damage all the time. But they can 100 me, so that's when I use the Res Legendary. And versus everything else, so far at least, I think that the Harmonious Apparatus is better. But if you feel like there's a matchup where you're just dying constantly and you want the Res Legendary, I would say go for it. You know what I mean? Definitely feel free to try that. And then for Venthyr and Kyrian, I would say it's still the same thing. You know, legendaries don't really change much for Holy Priest. You have your Covenant legendary, and you have your regular legendary, which is Harmonious or the Res one. The Venthyr legendary is very simple. Your Mind Games deals more damage, and it lasts a little bit longer. I'm pretty sure the Kyrian legendary is also very simple. I think it just makes your like Boon of the Ascended have like a shorter cooldown based on like how many targets it hits or something, or how often you use it. But oh man, this legendary is a headache. The Night Fae legendary is 100% the most frustrating legendary I've ever dealt with in my entire existence in this game. I absolutely hate this legendary. I don't even know how to explain it, but basically, if you want to use the Night Fae legendary for cooldown reduction, it's very simple. You just press it one time, and you try really hard not to flash heal anyone but the person that you press it on. If you want to use it for mana, you just want to put a Shadow Word after you like press your Fae Guardians, or you could even actually have like a Shadow Word Pain already up. The Fae Guardian should just jump to the Shadow Word Pain target, and you want to make sure that your teammates know which target you need them to attack so you get good mana back. But if you want to do damage reduction, it is very annoying. Okay, so let's just do this for example. We'll put a Shadow Word Pain on this guy. We'll go ahead and put cooldown reduction on this guy. I have no idea why I jumped over there. Fae Guardian's over there, whatever. He's got a Fae Guardian. This guy's got my CDR. But now if I want to do damage reduction, I gotta target myself with a powered shield. I get the damage reduction. Then I gotta repress Fae Guardian, which is now called the Direct Mask. And it puts up the damage reduction on you. It's really awkward. So if you are trying to put damage reduction on your teammates, what you have to do is target a teammate that you don't care about, put Fae Guardians on them, target a teammate that you want the damage reduction on, press Power Word Shield, and then press Fae Guardians again to swap the mask over. Whenever you press Fae Guardians the first time, it always puts up the CDR mask, and in order for you to swap it, you have to use a Power Word Shield, and then press the mask again, which makes it follow the Power Word Shield, which is damage reduction. This legendary is just kind of a headache, and a lot of the times it feels really obnoxious to use all the globals to just put up some damage reduction. If you wanted to get like a little bit fancy and have like 20-20, you could split it up, which I'll show you in 20 seconds here. So for example, you could put Fae Guardians on this guy, put a Power Word Shield on yourself, move the mask over. The mask stays on the person with 20% damage reduction, but then you put the Power Word Shield on the other person, and then that person has 20% damage reduction, the other person has the mask, which is 20% damage reduction. Like I said, this legendary is literally a headache, but I will show you, okay? He's got, you know, all this stuff. You put a Power Word Shield on yourself, you have 20% reduction. You put the mask on yourself, you have 20% reduction. You put the Power Word Shield on this guy, he gets 20% reduction, you still have the mask. Oh, no. You can't actually do that. Haunting Mask is providing no benefits. You have to make sure you reswap the mask. Okay. I think it would work if you had the Fey Guardian Fermenta, but I don't actually play this legend, or I don't play this Conduit because I don't think it's that good. Either way, very obnoxious legendary. You just have to make sure that you always swap the mask to who you want it on, and you got to understand that in order to get the full 40% damage reduction, you have to do like the weird swap. But if you're okay with them just having the CDR and the 20% damage reduction, that's fine. Also keep in mind that if you want the extra mana back, put the Shadow Word Paint up with your Fey Guardian, and then put the mask on your Fey Guardian, and it will give you double mana back, basically. Like, I probably had some, like, really insane games. Okay, so, like, my Fairy gave me 18,000 mana in this game. This was a 7-minute game where my Fairy gave me 18,000 mana. Obviously, incredibly powerful for mana back. I've gone over my macros a ton of times. Not much changes, but I'll be happy to go over them again. If you guys have seen my Holy Priest guides in the past, you can literally skip over this part. This is a macro to dispel party 1, but what this macro also does, if your target is mind controlled, instead of having to press a different button, you can literally press the same button and it will purge their mind control. It's actually a pretty handy macro. I like it. This is a help harm macro for dispelling friendly and dispelling enemy, so dispel and purge in the same button. Focus purge. This is desperate prayer, but this basically just uses battle master with it. The macro is a little bit out of date though. This is actually a really nice macro. I would never recommend playing without this macro, because like having to drop a feather and then walking into it is the most cringe thing I've ever seen. You literally just press this macro, it just instantly feathers yourself. Definitely get this macro. Holy Ward Self, Mind Blast Target, Mind Blast Holy Fire. These are really nice macros as well. I would suggest getting these macros for just making DPSing easier. Just target of target. You literally just shoot the person that that your target is shooting. PI Sam, Purify Self, which is you know, you don't have to change target. Dispel Yourself, Mind Control Arena 1, Leap of Faith Party 1, 2. These are actually really nice. Sometimes, like, if you're not targeting the right person, you can't, like, do a really fast grip. You can grip people out of, like, line of sight for crowd control, really easily grip bombs, things like that. Mind Control Arena 1, 2. I do like these macros a lot. I would recommend using them. Target Smite. I have a macro to always cast Powered Fortitude on myself. That way, like, if I wanted to rebuff someone that was, like, out of line of sight, I just cast it, and it's always on myself, and it would just rebuff them. It's kind of nice. Focus Chastise, definitely would recommend. Power Infusion Self. I Power Infuse myself, and I have a macro from either person. You could have one bind for PI, but the reason I don't like that is because when I'm doing, like, my PI setup on my mage, and I gotta, like, chastise this guy or MC that guy or something like that, it gets kind of annoying to, like, target him, press PI, target the other person, so I just made a macro that just does both. Shadow or Death, closest enemy. This is a really handy macro. This basically makes, like, Shadow or Deathing CC way easier. I'll show you how it works. It's really simple. It just targets the closest person to you and just presses Shadow or Death. So, like, for example, it should Shadow or Death this right here. So, makes it really easy to Shadow or Death CC. Definitely want to take a look, pause the video, take a look at that one, and write that one down. Cursor Sanctify. I'm a big fan of just, like, at cursor macros. I don't have it on my MD, but for, like, a lot of my cursor macros, like, I just have it shoot where my mouse is. I don't actually like clicking it. This is actually a interesting macro. Basically, if you're playing the res legendary, if you wait for your res to fade, like completely fade, there's a delay between where you can actually press your abilities and your opponents can attack you. So if I waited for this 12 seconds to go away, the opponents could kill me. But if I have a cancel our fade macro and I greater fade and then use a serenity, then they can't kill me before I get my fade off. So having this macro is actually pretty decent. I will say, if you're playing the res legendary, the first time I played it, I made a mistake. There's two things you need when you play the res legendary when you're dead. If your partners are taking damage, heal them, and you're 100% fine. But if your partners aren't taking damage, make sure you spam heal anyway. And the reason why you want to spam heal anyway is because you want to reset the cooldown on your Serenity. I can't heal anyone right now, but, like, for example, you could spam heal in this form, and you want to make sure you reset the cooldown out of your Serenity. and you want to make sure you kind of like have Fade available. So when you come out of that Spirit form, you instantly have a heal to top yourself. But like, yeah, the first time I used the Res Legendary, I literally canceled it. I pressed Fade, and I was like, oh my god, I don't have a Serenity, so I just died instantly. And then there was another time where, you know, I was spam healing my partners. I'm like, all right, nice, I have a Serenity, I'm chilling, and I pressed my cancel aura Fade macro, and my Fade was on cooldown, and I just died again instantly. So it gets a little bit wonky there. You just gotta make sure you have the right tools to try and survive after you are trying to come back or whatever. Stat priority. This is a little bit of like different opinions on stat priority for Priest. And personally, I am leaning towards more mastery, and I would say a lot of other Holy Priests are just leaning towards full haste. It's just from my personal experience playing, I just feel like my mastery always does a lot of healing. And it just feels like free healing. Just, you know, this game right here, this is a 7-minute long game where my mastery is my second highest heal. That just seems like such strong value. I have a lot of trouble believing, you know, if I just had like 10% more haste, that it would outweigh how much healing this mastery is actually doing or whatever. So I like going more mastery. The good thing about the gear on the Priest is you get a pretty good mix of both. I prioritize the gear with mastery personally, and I still get, you know, a pretty reasonable amount of haste. I could actually just log on the tournament realm and show you my exact stats. And then obviously the pieces that don't have mastery have haste, so it kind of works out pretty nice on Priest as opposed to, like, for example, Resto Shaman, where you only want mastery, and if you get crit or haste, you're kind of sad. Because both stats are good, so having like a little bit of haste with mastery is nice. So I'm only running 8% haste here. It would be a little bit higher if I had a different stat, I guess, or a different weapon, but I'm using this. I like mastery more. I know a lot of Holy Priests like haste. I am just in disagreement with them. Just my personal opinion. And then obviously haste after that, and obviously verse is, you know, kind of above all those other stats because that's just what comes on the PvP gear. So it's kind of your decision, I would say. Try haste, try mastery. Shouldn't really make a big difference. Conduits and Soulbind. So I will tell you right now, I've never once played Kyrian on my Priest, so I'm probably not even going to go over that Soulbind. It was like kind of an option that you could play the you could play that Kyrian build if you want. But yeah, I've literally never played it. But let me open up Wowhead here. Every Priest that plays the Kyrian thing plays infused effusive Anima Accelerator to shorten the cooldown. So you probably just like want to go for all your potency conduits. So here's a potency conduit. I'm pretty sure this is another potency conduit right here. Alright, yeah, so just follow the potencies, basically. It's pretty simple. I think this is another potency conduit, actually. I think you'd probably go double finesse, so I think this is probably finesse, yeah. So it's probably this path right here. I don't think you need double endurance as Holy Priest. So a lot of priests like this tree right here for Vinther. You kind of go this path. You go up here, through here, to the left. And then I like to play to the left over here, just for the extra finesse conduit. So this is generally the Holy Priest one that I like a lot. Or that most people like a lot, just because like the T is really nice. You get 3% stats or whatever. If I'm fighting as Rogue Mage, I like to play Service and Stone for like just a little bit extra survivability. And same thing, you just follow the potency conduits. It's, you know, it's really not that crazy. Also versus Rogue Mage, I do decide to go double endurance conduit, I'm pretty sure. So I think I actually play on the right side. Actually, no, I still play on the left side. This is actually a pretty nice ability over here. I will say that I probably play this Soulbind more than most other people. Basically, the way I see Holy Priest is it feels like I have one condition to lose on Holy Priest, and that's getting interrupted. So I just have a lot of respect for shortened interrupt duration, I guess. I really like this. I haven't played Venthyr in a while, but I really did like this interrupt reduction. So for the Night Phase Soulbinds, I don't really think of any of them are that amazing. But since I like to stack Mastery, I just always play Naya, because whenever I use my Fey Guardians, I just get a ton of Mastery. Just feel like it's even more free healing. You basically follow the path of potency conduits. The 3 potency conduits that I like to use. A lot of people will say don't use focus mending. I personally like it. I just feel like there's free healing from it. Fey Fermented sucks. I wouldn't recommend using it. Resonant Words is amazing. Lasting Spirit is amazing. I think focus mending is pretty good. If you are a Kyrian, you could probably drop Focus Mending, and if you are a Venthyr, you could also probably drop Focus Mending. I personally drop Lasting Spirit, just because, like I said, I really value Palm pretty highly, especially because I feel like I play Cardinal Mending more than most people. So, you know, I don't even think I'm playing Cardinal in this matchup specifically, but I still have a 9,500 Palm heal. So that is increased by 80% from the Conduit or whatever. It's like a lot of healing. Imagine if I was playing Cardinal Mending on top of that with 50% more healing. Cardinal Mending in combination with that Conduit's pretty good. If you end up not playing Cardinal Mending a lot and you had a second Soulbind set up, maybe the two like pair really well together. But I always play Focus Mending. I like it. I know a lot of other Holy Priests won't rate it very high, but I kind of feel like Palm is a lot of your healing. But yeah, so I would generally drop Lasting Spirit for like Imp Mind games or whatever the Kyrian one is, but it's kind of up to you, because Lasting Spirit's also really good, especially in this meta, like the extra healing you get from Guardian. I didn't think it was going to be that insane at first, but like damage is so high that having 86% healing instead of 60% healing feels pretty good sometimes. Also, I think it, you know, stacks up your mastery a little bit and stuff too, because you're healing for extra, but yeah. Unfortunately, I don't really play Holy Oration anymore. It kind of feels like you don't really have an issue resetting your Holy Word spells with the new 2-piece. The new 2-piece is really crazy. We'll talk about that later. But yeah, pretty simple. For double finesse, I really like short Leap of Faith. It's insane. 44-second cooldown on Leap of Faith, I believe. 50-second cooldown. Oh, okay, my conduits aren't enhanced or whatever. But yeah, really short cooldown on Leap of Faith, and obviously you always need to play Clear Mind. Dispel is just shorter or reduced mana. And for my one and only defensive conduit, I play the heal on Desperate Prayer. The reason why I don't like Translucent Image is because for the first 3 seconds of Fade, you're literally immune to damage. So it feels like this is just kind of like super low value. Condensed Animasphere. There's an argue that Condensed Animasphere could be better than Light's Inspiration, I suppose. Let me take a look here. Yeah, honestly, Condensed Animasphere would definitely do more than Light's Inspiration. It's just a question of when you press your Desperate Prayer, you're actually getting that healing at a time where you want it, as opposed to the Condensed Animasphere where you'd be getting like random healing that doesn't actually matter that much. Potentially. Yeah, it depends on the matchup. This is probably the go-to, but if you have like a high item level condensed or something, you want to use that, yeah, you can feel free to use that as well. General button explanation. If you're trying to learn Holy Priest, you don't really know what's going on, we'll just go over all the buttons for you here, okay? Flash heal, fast heal, inefficient, heal, slow heal, more efficient. Prayer Mending, something you probably just want to press on cooldown. Renew is a hot you want to keep up on cooldown. Power Word Shield is a desperate button. Like, it's not very mana efficient. I don't use Power Word Shield very often. As a matter of fact, this is a 7-minute game where I press Power Word Shield 5 times. 1.2% of my healing. So if you're ooming as a Holy Priest and you're pressing Power Word Shield a lot, you probably want to stop. You probably want to try and be more efficient with your spells. I guess we could talk about that in mana efficiency eventually anyway. Circle of Healing is another spell that I generally don't really use that often, but it's definitely not bad. It can reset your Sanctify. It could proc your instant flash heals. It puts your mastery up. It's pretty solid when healing multiple people. For single target, I wouldn't really recommend it that much. Your damaging abilities are Holy Fire, very powerful. Smite, medium power. Definitely both are definitely good for resetting your Chastise. Shadow Word Pain, which is, you know, you could literally have Shadow Word Pain up all times, like 200 mana. 150 mana, yeah. So Shadow Word Pain does pretty decent damage for very cheap. Obviously, you have Fear. Guardian Spirit is one of your cooldowns. Serenity is your big heal. And just in case you don't understand how, like, Holy Words work, basically, Serenity is reset by, like, casting heals and flash heal, as you can see. Sanctify is reset by using your AoE heals. Well, you can't really reset this one, I guess. Unless you use Prayer Healing, but you're not going to use Prayer Healing. And then if you're resetting your Chastise, you just use damage spells. So, well, Smite, I guess. We'll Holy Fire again. Should be, like, minus 20 seconds. There you go. Desperate Prayer is one of your defensives. Shadow Word Death, really good for avoiding CC. Leap of Faith, obviously incredible for getting your teammates out of trouble. Divine Hymn is not a very powerful heal, but what's kind of nice about it is it stacks a healing increase also gives you a little bit of buff protection. So like sometimes I try and like dip around the pillar and use this little bit of AoE healing, pretty decent healing increase, which is pretty nice. Symbol of Hope is one of my favorite abilities on Priest. It gives you mana back, but it also resets the cooldown of a major defensive ability from all your teammates. So for when I play with Windwalker Monk, it'll take 1 minute off Fortifying Brew. If you play with a Warrior, it'll take 1 minute off Enrage Regen, 1 minute off Die by the Sword, 1 minute off Blur, 1 minute off Astral Shift. It's super nice. So when I'm playing with my teammates, and the first thing like if they use their defensives like First Global, for example, one of the ones I just listed, the first thing I do is say, yo, I'm going to reset you, and I instantly try and reset the defensive as soon as we're in a position where we're able to. You have feathers for, you know, kind of getting around, and you have offensive and defensive Dispel. So now I want to talk about like the healing rotation and the tier gear rotation. So this is really interesting. Basically, Holy Priest got really strong with the introduction of tier gear. And the reason why it got really strong with the introduction of tier gear is because you could reset your Serenities very, very quickly, especially if you know what you're doing. And also, your heals are just insanely powerful with the tier gear. So, basically, if I had 4 set right now, which I don't, my next heal would be 60% stronger. And I already have a buff that makes it 83% stronger. So, like, my next heal would be 140% stronger, which is insane. You know, it stacks. And on top of that, your 2-piece is every time you use a Holy Word spell, like the next ability that reduces the cooldown of a Holy Word spell, reduces it by an additional 15 seconds. So, you know, why priests have Serenity all the time is for this reason right here. You see it on a 45-second cooldown. You press Palm, it's on a 23-second cooldown. Now, you can really manipulate that by using multiple Holy Word spells. So, for example, let me just take Apoth off here, because Apoth is just, like, way too broken. So, like, let's just use a Serenity here. We Serenity there, and then we Palm. We Sanctify here, and then we Flash Heal. My Serenity is already off cooldown. Alright? Now, we can literally, like, you know, Serenity again, and Flash Heal. It's a 20-second CD, and then we could use a Chastise, because that's a Holy Word, and we could use Palm, and we have a Serenity again. So, making sure that you weave in that 15-second buff is very important. Like, what you don't want to do is, like, you don't want to use a Chastise and then use a Serenity. You want to, like, try and weave in, like, a Palm or a Flash Heal to try and get the extra healing or the extra reset from having that buff. Like, you don't want to stack it, for example. You know what I mean? Because it only works on one. It only works on one spell, and it will not stack. So that... yeah, that is just, it's really important that you know that, to, like, not do that. So, like, just for example, like, let's just say I Serenity here, and then I say, oh, shit, you know, we're dying, I'm going to Sanctify as well. You don't get double CDR reduction on the next one, so, like, you kind of missed out on minus 15 seconds on your Serenity or whatever you want to do. Also, keep in mind, if you're playing aggressive, you could do the same thing with offensive. You know, you could Sanctify, or sorry, you could Chastise, and then you could Holy Word, you could Holy Fire, then you could Serenity or Sanctify, and then you could use a Smite, and boom. In 2 abilities, your Chastise is already almost off cooldown, so you could play really aggressive with that. So you just want to make sure you're weaving in that 2 set very, very well in order to really manipulate how fast you can have the CDR on your Holy Word spells. And one thing that's really insane is if you use Apotheosis, you can literally Serenity into Flash Heal, Serenity into Flash Heal, Serenity into Flash Heal, Serenity into Flash Heal. Like, it's just infinite resets. Serenity into Flash Heal, like, Serenity into Flash Heal, Palm, Serenity, Flash Heal, Sanctify, Flash Heal, and, like, this is why Holy Priest are broken. If you can use essentially a 1-minute cooldown heal 20 times in a row like that, because it's actually a 1-minute cooldown without the PP talent, yeah, something's wrong. And then on top of that, you could also just be like, oh, wow, you know, during that time, you're just going to take 100% more healing. Yeah. So yeah, just the healing rotation on Priest, pretty simple, man. Like, Serenity, when you need it, reset it with Palms and Flash Heals. I generally use Sanctify as a Serenity reset. as well as Chastise. Well, Chastise for CC, but you try and reset Serenity with it. And then keep up Renew. Don't use Power Word Shield often. Flash heal for inefficient fast heals. Heal if you can afford to cast it for more efficiency. If multiple people are taking damage and you feel like you need a little bit more AoE healing, you could use Circle Healing, procs the instant flash heal, which is great. I would recommend not using the instant flash heal until you have a, like, 2-set buff, because it, like, works out really well with it, I guess. Because Palm is one instant you could use to reset Serenity, but if you could also use your instant flash heals to reset Serenity, it's really nice. So I would definitely recommend trying to get like that 15, the Divine Conversation buff to, you know, use with that instant flash heal. So like, for example, you could like Serenity here, Palm for a reset, Serenity here, instant flash heal for a reset, and it just feels so smooth. You know, we have another instant flash heal, so we could Serenity again into an instant flash heal. Then we could Chastise into a Palm. Like, this is how you just live. Like, you just do so much instant healing. But yeah, the healing on Priest is pretty simple. Damage rotation, also very simple. You have 3 damaging abilities, unless you have Mind Games. Shadow Word Pain. You can literally have Shadow Word Pain up 100% of the time. You should try and Holy Fire on cooldown just because it's a lot of damage. And I would say Smites are for damage and mainly, like, resets. Like, you don't really Smite that often unless you're super free on globals and you're just trying to pump and you want to reset, but Holy Fire pumps. Like, you definitely want to put Holy Fire into targets. And one thing that's really cool is when you get this 4-piece Divine Conversation, increase the effectiveness of your next Holy Words affecting spell, your Holy Fire will hit for 40% harder, basically. So, like, if I were to Serenity here, I would have a buff that makes either my Flash heal for 60% more, or my Holy Fire would deal 60% more damage. And that's a huge Holy Fire if you're trying to burst, like, aggressive with that. So, like, if you wanted to do, like, a Chastise and a Holy Fire combo, your Holy Fire is going to hit really hard. Cooldown rotation is really simple. Someone asked my oh shit button. Your oh shit button is literally just Guardian Spirit. Like, when you're coming out of CC, you just GS Serenity, and you basically just put someone to full HP. The Serenity healed for 50,000. My Echo is healing for 8k every couple seconds. Like, Guardian is your oh shit button. But understand that Apotheosis is an incredible healing cooldown. Like, yeah, Apoth is a 2-minute infinite heal cooldown. You know, you press Apoth, Serenity, you can literally just Palm, Serenity, Sanctify, you know, you could circle healing. Like, you don't even need to spam instants with it, and you're still going to get a ton of healing. I will say, though, with Apoth, if you feel like you can't get a bunch of flash heals on your teammates, just dip behind the pillar, cast a flash heal on yourself. Just reset that Serenity, you know? Make sure you're getting that Serenity reset because it's so powerful. But yeah, in terms of cooldown rotation, don't be greedy. Use Guardian Spirit often. You know, if you're playing Ray of Hope and people are taking, like, big splash damage, use it. It's a 1-minute cooldown on both of them. You're not really going to feel like you get, like, super punished by using it at a bad time. It's just, it's such a short cooldown. It's such a short cooldown. But I will say, just make sure you try really hard not to let them proc the Guardian Angel. Mana efficiency, we kind of already talked about this a little bit. Flash heal is inefficient. You would prefer to cast heal. I will say that a lot of times I do cast flash heal, just kind of how, like, the pacing of the game works. If you're having trouble with mana efficiency, you could spec into Enlightenment. If you're having trouble with mana efficiency, you might be using Power Word Shield too often. If you're having trouble with mana efficiency, you could double Fey Guardian for Shadow Word Pain. So, for example, put the mask on this guy. You get double mana. This is literally double mana. You could get so much mana back from this. You can literally double Fey Guardian for mana on CD, have your teammates attack into that Fey Guardian, and you will just get a ton of mana back. So that's really important. And then one thing that you want to make sure you use is Symbol of Hope. Symbol of Hope is also going to give you mana back. Don't forget about that ability. It's incredible for utility. Positioning on Holy Priest is generally very passive from my experience, like, until you're ready to do what's called a go. Holy Priests just have so much mobility and such a far range on CC, you don't really have to play on top of people. You kind of sit back at the pillar, make sure you're just, you know, kind of avoiding CC being really hard to kill, and then you push in at the right time, you know, 360 off a mountain, levitate down, and you can literally just chastise people from this far away. You know what I mean? And then you can literally just jump on their face and hit them with a fear. and then you go back to doing the same thing. Like, you don't have to play on top of people as a priest. They have the furthest CC spell in the game, and it's one of the reasons why priests are so brutal to deal with, because they just sneak in at the right time, and they go for that CC from such a far range. And when you chastise, you could literally feather and fade. Like, watch this. Ready? Feather, fade. Look at this. You know, I'm just immune to freaking everything. NASCAR just coming in hot. You know, feather, fade. I'm unstoppable. Make sure you use the chastise first, because otherwise you'll just break yourself out of the fade. But you're literally impossible to stop. So your positioning, I would say, is mainly defensive until you're ready to go, which is about every 30 seconds. But yeah, utility, CC, Dispels. We kind of already talked about your CC with Chastise and Fear. Just remember that you have Mind Control. Mind Control is a really powerful ability. Mind Control is really important just to get kicks out of the way. Like, when I lose a game and I feel like I'm struggling with too much on kicks, the first thing I say is, I gotta cast more Mind Controls. Like, and you need to cast them when people are, like, high HP and when you have Serenity charges. You don't want to be in a spot where, like, wow, I have to cast Flash Heals, I have no Serenity charges, I'm gonna start Mind Controlling right now and get some kicks out of the way. It's too late at that point, you know what I mean? You could try it, but it's most likely too late. You want to cast Mind Controls when you're ahead, and if you have to cast them when you're behind, when you're desperate, that's one thing. But yeah, your utility as a priest, you have great CC, some of the best CC in the game with Chastise, Fear, Mind Control. You have Power Infusion for DPS on your teammates. I generally use it on my teammates. I don't really think PI on healers is super crazy. I will say sometimes in like a cleave v cleave matchup, I do PI myself, just because I need to pump out like as much healing as possible. So yeah, you have PI, Mass Dispel, you know, remove blocks, remove bubble. You have Symbol of Hope, which can reset your enemy or your teammates' defensive cooldowns. If you're playing Fey Guardians, you can reset your team's offensive cooldowns. Holy Priest has a ton of utility. Holy crap. You have Life Grip to get people, like, you know, out of position. I would say, generally speaking, it feels like offensive purges are, like, not really talked about too much these days, like what buffs you want to dispel, because there's not many. So, if you're fighting a Paladin and they have a Freedom, it's one buff. You can dispel it. You know, if they have a Bop, one buff. You can dispel it. If you're fighting against Druid, it's a little bit different. You know, they always have buffs, and if you're, like, going for a kill, spamming Purge could be effective, but Dispel just isn't really talked about that much anymore, because a lot of, like, offensive cooldowns used to be dispellable. You know, Icy Veins, Dark Soul, Wings. You can't do that anymore. You know what I mean? You could dispel PI. You definitely want to try and purge PI if you can. It's kind of surprised that PI is even dispellable at this point, actually, considering everything else is not dispellable. I guess Ice Form is dispellable. But yeah, in terms of CC, it's the same thing with that as well. Novas, Polymorphs, Fears. You don't really dispel dots as a Disc Priest. If you're dying, you could fade and dispel dots, and you could dispel UA without taking the damage, which is actually pretty nice. You cannot fade Mass Dispel anymore. You can Purge Combust, but by the time you're able to use the Global Purge Combust, you're already dead, so I'd not recommend dealing with it, or trying that. Dealing with kicks, you know, like I said, you want to try and get some kicks out of the way with Mind Control if you can. You could Night Fae. You can Night Fae if you're locked out. You could Door Shadows to try and bait kicks. I really like Door Shadows for baiting kicks, man. Venthyr is actually so sick. And also Mind Games, man. You never get kicked more than when you're casting a Mind Games, bro. Mind Games in this expansion has put the fear of God into every single player. So they could be at full HP. The game's not even started. Behind the pillar, you start casting on Mind Games, bro. The red alerts start going off. The weak auras. The healer's freaking out. You literally soak kicks with Mind Games. I miss it. I miss it so much. So I really do like playing Venthyr. And as a Holy Priest, there's not really too much you can talk about how to kite, you know. You have feathers, you're not really moving, you have Door Shadows, you have Soul Shape. The best tool that you have to survive melee is literally just Divine Ascension. And what I will say about Divine Ascension from my point of view when I use it, I try and use it when my Serenity's on cooldown. Don't just go and press Divine Ascension because someone's targeting at you and you got scared, okay? You know? Like, you want to be in the air with no charges of Serenity so you can reset them really fast, and when you come down, you have more ways to defend yourself. You know what I mean? So it's pretty simple. You know what I mean? Pretty simple. Pretty simple. Also, you have Greater Fade. I talked about a little bit. You could play Angel's Mercy. When 2 melee get on me, I'm not going to lie, first thing I do is press Desperate Prayer. I just want that extra HP so I don't just get absolutely exploded. This is Shadowlands. And in terms of offensive / defensive, you know, we kind of already talked about the positioning. We kind of already talked about what you can do. Just understand that Holy Priest will be a important role in setting up crowd control. Basically, when you're doing a crowd control chain or you're trying to set up a kill, you should always have one person covered. All right, you should stun fear them, stun chastise them. You should have one person completely out of the game when your team is setting up for a kill. And someone in the chat also made the point that Divine Ascension can immune CC. You can, if a Stormbolt's in the air, you can Divine Ascension and fly up. So it is really nice. And also at the very start of the video, when I was talking about talents, I said these two are 100% picks. When I fight against sub RMP, I actually drop double Serenity because I don't need the healing, because it's all setup based, and I just play Holy Ward, and I play Fly, and I play Greater Fade. And if the rogue comes behind the pillar and he cheap shots off my Holy Ward, I press Greater Fade. And then when my Greater Fade goes away, I fly up in the air. And all I try and do is just delay them from doing goes for as long as I can. So you have 3 ways to kind of screw with that team to try and prevent goes. And then in terms of comps, this is actually going to be funny. So the strongest comp that a Holy Priest has is probably RMP. You probably want to play Vent, there's probably RMP. But other than that, Holy Priest are just the alpha male Chad healers. You can play anything. You can play melee caster, you can play wizards, you can play double melee. They are just the best healer. If you say, yo, can I play this comp with a Holy Priest? The answer is yes. It's the best healer. I will also say that 2-piece is very important for Holy Priest. And if you're struggling on Holy Priest right now and you don't have 2-piece, that is a very good reason why. Without the 2-piece, Holy Priests were not even close to the best healer last patch. With the tier gear, mainly the 2-piece, very important, they became the best healer. So 2-piece is really important. I would definitely recommend trying to get that. It is worth literally doing the LFR. So you can get legs from the first set from Halandris. You can get gloves from Lehiyavim. But yeah, it's definitely worth it. It's definitely worth it. In terms of like what trinket I use, I guess I generally play the Aegis. If you were to play against double melee, you could play Battlemaster. And if you want, you could also play Resonator if you feel like you're not going to get attacked. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope you guys learned something from this guide. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Peter Pan, that's what they call me. I promise that you'll never be lonely. Peter Pan, that's what